for daring to question the existing social structure, you will not have to lift a finger to keep them in their chains. They will in fact attack anyone holding a key. Once you have enslaved one generation, most parents will almost inevitably resist the freedom of the next generation out of guilt and shame about their own surrender. Divine greetings, African royals, wherever you are. Princes, princesses, kings, and queens. Welcome again to another episode of W4W Book Reading series. Reading for Enlightenment and Awareness. We are currently reading from the book entitled The Handbook of Human Ownership, a manual for new tax farmers. And today, we will be covering chapters 8 and 9. In our last episode, we covered 3 chapters where we looked at democracy and bribery, the end of the current cycle, and the birth rates as it relates to human ownership and tax farming in chapters 5 to 7 respectively. In this episode, we will be learning more about human ownership as it relates to the dependent classes in chapter 8 and the slave family in chapter 9. I do hope that you are well geared up to learn something new today. But before we head on down into today's reading, a quick disclaimer. We might be reading from this book, but it don't mean that we endorse the book or the author. We are just reading for knowledge and enlightenment. Alright? Alright. And remember, this is a spiritual mission with our ancestors as our guiding light. And remember, you can always download a free copy of this book at freedomainradio.com so you can read and follow along with us. With that said, grab your notebooks, grab your highlighters and your pens, and let's go open up our eyes some more in this episode. Chapter 8, The Dependent Classes. A key foundation of livestock management is bribery, which has an obvious benefit and a subtle one. The obvious benefit is that, say, artists and intellectuals who receive government money will never be fundamentally critical of government taxes and redistribution, for reasons too obvious to mention here. The more subtle benefit is that when you create an entire class of people dependent on government handouts, you divide the livestock into warring factions. Those whose money is being stolen have a strong incentive to reduce state theft, while those who receive stolen money have a strong incentive to increase state theft. It is absolutely essential that you create and maintain conditions which foster slave-on-slave aggression. If rulers smack down the slaves directly, the livestock immediately become aware of their enslavement, which reintroduces the motivation problem. Efficient human masters thus ensure that the slaves attack each other. The benefits of this are almost too numerous to count, but a few will be mentioned below. Human beings, as interdependent tribal mammals, have evolved to be terrified of horizontal social attack, ostracism, and rejection. This is a core emotional vulnerability which can never be eliminated and will always serve you well. Prehistoric man could not live without the support of the tribe, and so the need for social acceptance was programmed into the very base of his brain as a core survival mechanism. The philosophers who serve power, mostly priests and academics, have layered onto this basic mechanism the additional power of ethics. Ethics is a claim to a universal principle of preferred behavior, which has the enormous benefit of being easily internalized by the slave classes. If you can get slaves to attack themselves for daring to question the existing social structure, you will not have to lift a finger to keep them in their chains. They will in fact attack anyone holding a key. As a backup, you must always have a group of slaves willing to attack anyone who mentally frees himself from your false ethics. This enforcement will always come from two main areas: the family and the media. There ends chapter 8. I do hope you catch the nuggets then we drop. Yeah, man. See you in chapter 9. Chapter 9. The Slave Family. Deep down, slaves always know that they are slaves, and their only real enslavement is resisting this knowledge. Prior ruling classes did not trust this basic mechanism, and so were hesitant to substitute horizontal social control for vertical political violence. Now we know better. All commonly accepted cultural myths are created by the ruling class, are essential lubricants for the wheels of power. The most common cultural myth is that your family is everything, the most important relationship, the most essential intimacy, the most fundamental social unit. This helps the ruling class in countless ways, not least of which is that it establishes and extends the principle that an accident of birth creates a fundamental and eternal moral obligation, quote-unquote, family, thus equals, quote-unquote, country. Also, quote-unquote, sports team, which is one reason why we fund them. Once you have enslaved one generation, most parents will almost inevitably resist the freedom of the next generation out of guilt and shame about their own surrender. We tell people to stay close to their families because their families will so often attack them for even thinking about leaving the cages of collective history. Let's look at the sequence. A man surrenders his liberty for petty cash and the illusion of security. He then becomes a father. His son questions his father's moral courage and integrity, and the father then attacks the son, chaining them in a cage they both rot in. Open I catch the nuggets. Open I catch the nuggets. Let's continue. For this cycle to be maintained, we must forever tell the son that his family is the most important thing in the world. More important than reason, evidence, truth, integrity, morality, you name it. If he believes us, and if his family is not committed to his freedom, we, and in bracket they, will own him forever. This is the basic deal we offer to parents, just like priests. Give us your kids, and we'll teach them to honor and obey you no matter what, so you don't actually have to be a good person and earn their respect. True, not all parents take this unholy deal, but we just get the media to mock the homeschooled kids, and all is well. Furthermore, given the billions of people ensnared in the dependent classes the world over, it is a near certainty that at least one or more close family members will be dependent upon the existing system and will then violently attack anyone who questions the morality and practicality of predatory democracy. Want to privatize education? Say hi to your teacher, Aunt Mommy, and let the fun begin. Dear end chapter 9. Open and catch the nuggets. Open and catch the nuggets. And look around in your society and see which part any one of them nuggets that fall. See ya. So, we've reached the end of today's episode, and thanks again for listening, and I do hope that you learned something new today. If you find this series educational and informative, please subscribe and join us as we continue, reading towards the global awakening and enlightenment of our people. A mammoth task, but it can be done. And again, please be reminded that not because we read a book here means that we are in agreement with the philosophies of the author or the context of the book. We are simply reading to become more knowledgeable about things we didn't know about, but should. If it exists, then why shouldn't we know that it do? Just simply that. Give thanks again, and thanks for stopping by. See you in the next episode. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and drop your analysis in the comment section, whether you read the book already or you're just reading the book with us. Your comments are welcome. Okay? Give thanks.